Ms. Harris, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
Clara Harris, 391168.
All right. And let's see, I want to welcome, joining us there, let's see, is Reverend Nash, wants to speak on your behalf. On Zoom, we have Katrina Clean, the Promise of Justice. Oh, I'm sorry, you have counsel. You have counsel with you this morning, Ms. Harris?
No, ma'am. They did not. They're not here.
I just have, I have it listed on my, you have Promise of Justice as an attorney who will be joining us by Zoom. So we'll see when, at the appropriate time. Lakeisha Klein also wants to speak on your behalf, your sister, Tina Bash. So I'll read some identifying information into the record and then we'll start our interview process with you. We'll hear from the warden. And then we'll hear from the folks who've indicated they'd like to speak. And at the end, you'll be allowed to make a statement if you'd like to do so before we vote. Did you understand all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Harris, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 40-year sentence. You were sentenced in December 1997 for manslaughter in Madison Parish. You have parole eligibility August 10th, 2023, and good time date is November 25th, 2031. Does that information sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, your case has been assigned to Mr. Roche. Would you answer his questions?
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Ms. Harris.
Good morning.
Good. May I call you Ms. Cloud?
Can you call me Miss Clara?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Cloud, you're currently 45 years old. You're first felony offender, and you served 25 and a half years on a 40-year sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you became eligible for parole due to Act 122 of the Louisiana State Legislature. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I see where you've earned 465 days of good time.
Yes, sir.
So we'll talk about your programs a little later. And we'll talk about the 365 days that you lost in good time.
Yes, sir.
All the time you gained through your programs, you've lost because of disciplinary problems.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about that a little later. The crime that you committed happened on November 13th, 1997. And you were arrested 8 days later,
Yes, sir.
and you pled guilty to manslaughter 10 days after that.
Yes, sir.
So within 18 days, you committed a crime, you were arrested, and you were convicted. What was the rush to judgment? Well, I don't understand. Most convictions happen within 6, 12, 18 months. 10 days after you were arrested, you pled guilty and was sentenced. First of all, you were arrested for first-degree murder, then you pled to manslaughter and pled guilty 10 days later. Tell me why the rush to judgment?
Because they told me if I didn't take the first degree murder, I would get the death penalty if I didn't plead guilty. So I plead guilty
The manslaughter.
to keep from getting the death penalty.
Okay. And that and the DA was giving you an ultimatum at that time. And if you didn't do it at that time, if found guilty at trial, you would get the death penalty.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Miss Harris has no warrants. She has no supervision history. I think this is the only arrest on Miss Harris's record. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Opposition in this case comes from law enforcement, Sheriff Sammy Bird. Sheriff Bird entered a statement. He says he feels like Miss Harris has not served enough time for paying to pay for her debt, her deceased child. Now, our parole officers could not find any written documentation on exactly what happened. So would you please give us your version of why you've been incarcerated for the last 25 and a half years?
Okay. I wasn't supposed to have him. My auntie had custody of him.
Hey, tell me who him is.
My son, DeVecchio Rayshawn Harris.
Okay, he was 2 years old.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell me,
I wasn't supposed to have him unless I was supervised with my aunt, with the social worker. But she called me to come get him to spend 2 days with me because I was out from work. I was working at Wendy's and I was out for 2 days. So I went and got him.
okay, why did you have to be supervised with your 2-year-old?
Because he was took from me when after I had him, like, I got pregnant at 16. I had him at 17. Like 2 months after I had him, he was taken away from me.
Why?
Because I had got in an altercation with one of my cousins and she called the police and said that I slammed him in the seat, which it wasn't true. And they called the police and they took him to the hospital and checked him out, but wasn't nothing wrong with him.
Okay, I understand. Continue.
Sir?
You can continue, I understand.
So I went, hold on just a second. So I went and got him. He was already hurt. Something was wrong with him, but I couldn't, by me not being a mother, didn't know nothing about a child, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. Something was wrong with his leg. Okay.
So when
So
when you went to get your son from your aunt or his aunt, he seemed to be injured.
When you went and picked him up, he seemed to be injured.
Yes, sir.
Did you take him to the hospital?
No, sir.
Why?
Because I was young and I didn't understand being a mother. I didn't understand nothing about a child. I was a child myself.
Okay.
So I didn't.
So what happened to your son?
What happened? Okay, I had anger issues, and I used to lash out a lot. So I had an argument with my boyfriend, and I hit him. I hit him with my open hand. I hit him in the chest and on the side and on the leg, but it wasn't intentional. I wasn't trying to hurt him. I just spanked him. Okay, and he went back to bed. I went back to bed. I got up. I went to get us something to eat. When I came back, we ate. And we played with the other children that was in the house. I was living with someone else. I was living with my boyfriend and his family. And he played, and then that evening when he woke up, he said he was hungry. When he get ready to eat, he always say he want to eat. That's how he say he like to eat a lot. And when he woke up, his mouth locked up on him. I didn't know what to do, so I panicked. I was shaking him. He was throwing up. And I called my aunt and I told Jeffrey, I say, something is wrong with him. He's not breathing and he's not talking. So she told me to call the ambulance, but by the time I called the ambulance, he died in my arms. I wasn't.
So, Ms. Clara, let me get this straight. You're living with your boyfriend, you were angry with your boyfriend, so you whipped your 2-year-old. He went to sleep, he woke up hungry, and his jaw locked up on it, and then you
Yes.
just shook him.
Yeah, I was patting him because he was vomiting, trying to stop him from vomiting.
Which was the wrong thing to do.
Well, so I didn't know at the time. I was just trying to help him. I didn't know.
So
I
he died in your arm before.
take full responsibility.
I know he died in your arm before medical assistance could arrive.
Yes, sir.
Okay. According to this record, this is the only arrest on Ms. Harris's record. Ms. Harris, you were 17 or 18 years old, but tell me, was there any drugs or alcohol abuse at that time?
No, sir, I do not use drugs. No, sir. I don't do alcohol.
You've never used drugs or alcohol.
No, sir.
So basically, it was a bad home environment. You were living with your boyfriend, got angry with your boyfriend, and you sort of took it out on your 2-year-old.
Yes, sir.
We have a victim statement, and the victim, I think it's Ms. Jacqueline Sanders,
Yes, sir.
contacted, and she is unopposed to your early release. I thought you should know that. Tell me about the programs that you've completed.
Sisters Keepers, Living in Balance, Prenatal Class, Life Healing Choices, Celebrate Recovery, Cage for Rage, Parenting, Breathing Support Program, Project Metamorphosis, Life Support, Trauma Healing, Pre-Release, and Victim Impact. And I'm in school getting my GED.
Okay, and you did the dyslexic program too, also.
Yes, sir. They helping me get my GED online. Yes, sir.
Okay, now, have you finished the victim impact training?
I have one class left.
And Warden Thomas, I do have a letter from Miss Christy McGovern saying that she's in the GED program at dyslexic, and she gave me the possibilities, but I'd like to see her continue working on that GED.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Because it will be a tremendous help at the age of 45 if she is released.
Yes, sir.
You have a low risk assessment, you're housed in medium custody. Tell me about the Kairos weekend.
Oh, it was a blessing. I had a lot of unforgiveness and bitterness because of the things that happened in my life. So I asked God to help me because I didn't know how to forgive for the things that I hurt, how I hurt my son. It wasn't intentionally. I'm very remorseful. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to hurt him. So I've learned how to forgive people and just it's just helped me how to forgive.
Ms. Harris, I see that you have a great transition plan with Kingdom Recovery in West Monroe, Louisiana, Ms. Tina Bass, and I've dealt with Ms. Bass before. But I want to see something better for you than fast food restaurant as a place of employment. If you get that GED and work towards I like to see you have higher aspirations than working at McDonald's or Burger King. Wouldn't you like that?
Operations, I'm working at a fast food restaurant.
Oh, yes, sir.
Work supervisor had no issue with you, security, no issue, and classification officer had no issue. You have a low risk assessment, as I said, but my first concern is that you have a high needs assessment. And a high needs assessment tells me that you will have a difficult time if you're released because you have high need. And let me see if I can find that.
Education, antisocial thinking, and peers.
Yeah, and social thinking,
transportation.
yeah, and that's a concern for me, but we will try to deal with that in my decision. 1 second, let me get back. Let's talk about your ACEs score. There is a instrument for female offenders which gauges the criminality in which they're involved in. I've never seen a score of 8 on the ACE evaluation. That's 8 negative things that affected you as an adolescent that may be responsible for the criminality in which we see in you. So, what negative events, activities, or interactions did you have growing up that caused you to become angry?
Molestation, abuse from different family members, and rape from my own family members. At a young age, a child being raped by a man.
Your parents were separated or divorced.
Yes, sir.
You had people that drink and use drugs in the household.
My mother didn't have custody of me. My mother lost custody of me. I was living with my grandmother.
Okay.
My grandmother raised me.
And you had members of your household that was incarcerated.
Yes, I had an uncle and a cousin.
So, okay. So all those negative things affected you as you were growing up.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about those things now? What have you done in the last 25 years to correct those negative impacts it had on your early childhood?
I have prayed and asked God to forgive me, and I'm no longer the same person that I was. I don't have anger issues as I used to have before.
Okay. Ms. Clara, and I have to talk about this disciplinary record. You entered incarceration in what, 1997?
Yes, sir.
And your first write-up when you got to LCIW was in June of 1998, and it says threat to security. And that raised a red flag for me. It is write out the words, you are a threat to security. What did you do when you first was incarcerated that caused them to think that you were a threat to security?
When you were a threat to security, it was one of your first write-ups. Do you recall what it was for?
Oh, because I made a statement that I no longer wanted to be there, so they say there was a threat. I wasn't supposed to say that. I had just first got my time. I had just arrived and I made a statement. I was crying and I said I didn't want to be here. And she said that was a threat, that I wasn't supposed to make a statement like that. I didn't know I had just came. I had just arrived. But I didn't know you couldn't say that. They say it's like an escape risk.
Now, Ms. Clara, I'm gonna be very honest with you. You have well over 200 disciplinary write-ups and 25 years of incarceration. That's an average of 8 write-ups each year of incarceration. And I wouldn't be as worried about that if most of them were in your first 10 or 15 years. But you've had close to 40 write-ups in the last 10 years. The last 10 years of your incarceration. The last one was a very serious write-up, a 21E. And everybody here knows what a 21E is, so we don't have to talk about it. But it's a very serious write-up. Destruction of state property, aggravated disobedience. You said you controlled your anger. But in 2018, you had a fight. 2018, you had 2 fights. 2017, fight. Contraband 2016. Defiance in 2015. You had a write-up every year except 2022 in the last 10 years.
Yes, sir.
So tell me why all the defiance?
Sir, I didn't have no hope. I thought my parole, I wasn't expecting this parole date for the 2045. I thought my parole date was gonna be in 2031. I wasn't expecting this.
So
To be heard this early. So I didn't have no hope of going to the board at all.
Ms. Clara, let me stop you. Because you didn't have any hope of a parole date, you decided you were gonna do what you want to do when you want to do it. And the rules didn't matter. Your
No, sir.
rehabilitation didn't matter to you simply because you want to do what you want to do.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
In 2021, you knew you had a parole date.
No,
And
sir, I just received my parole date.
you knew you were going to be eligible one day. Am I right?
Yes, sir, but not this soon. I thought it was 2031. Yes, sir.
So you just continue doing what you want to do, regardless of the rules and regulations.
No, sir.
According to this record you did, it is a lot of violent and aggravated offenses.
Yes, sir.
21E, destruction of state property, fighting, aggravated disobedience, defiance, disrespect, misconduct.
Yes, sir. I'm very remorseful.
Warden Thomas, do you have anything to say?
I mean, she does, have all of those disciplinary write-ups, as you have mentioned, but she has really started to try and make a turn in the past year and a half. We actually had her recently reduced to minimum custody, and she's working up here in our administration building. She's actually doing really well working with staff and tending to the needs up here. As we kind of discussed already about the literacy program and dyslexia, she is still very dedicated to her education and working towards receiving her high set at some point, hopefully in the near future. She is low risk, and Ms. Bass can probably give a little bit more information, but she does have a pretty solid transition plan that she has solidified if she does get a favorable decision today.
So in the last 2 years, since the July 21 write-up, she's had a turnaround.
She has, yes, sir. She really has, I think kind of something has resonated with her that, you know, she has to make a few changes around here. She's actually been helpful for some of the other, she's not a mentor, but she has kind of taken, you know, a few inmates under her wing and trying to give some guidance to some of those who are more recently coming in and having some disciplinary issues. So I think, you know, it is taking a turn, and she has done what we've expected in the past couple of years, like I've said.
How long has she been working in the administrative area?
2 months?
About 2
2
months,
months, yes, sir.
about 2 months and a half.
Okay, what was your job before that?
I was in housekeeping and in a yard, and then I went to school. I was just going to school in the morning and not the evening, but now I go to school all day from 7 to 3. I'm in school all day.
Now, in Ms. Bass's letter, say that you have a 1-year stay at Kingdom Recovery, but she said you can stay longer if you need. What is your permanent residency plan? Where do you plan to live on a permanent basis after Kingdom Recovery?
What would be a permanent residence after Kingdom Recovery? Where would you like to go?
Monroe, I'm gonna stay in Monroe, Louisiana. I'm gonna stay in Monroe
With
and
who?
finish getting my education and get me a job and go to church and just do everything possible that I can to stay out of trouble.
Who will you live with?
Who will you live with?
Me,
Do you have your own home?
I want, after I leave the transition house, I'm gonna have my own place.
Okay, you have your own house.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'm gonna work towards getting my money to have my own place.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Is there any comments from the guest at LCIW?
Did you want to make any statement?
Can they say?
Mhm.
It's hard to hear you, but I'm trusting you can hear me. I'm Carol Williamson, a volunteer chaplain. I have been at LCIW for 11 years, over 11 years. And I have spent some time with Clara, and I feel like she's made a lot of progress. As a victim of child molestation myself, I can resonate with her. And I was angry, and it's a miracle I didn't go to jail. I'm just saying, when you're molested as a child, it's so damning. And I was full of anger and bitterness, and I was miserable. But thank God I got saved. And that changed my whole destiny. And when I got in church and I learned the Bible, and I can resonate with her about the forgiveness, because it was so hard for me to forgive my father who molested me. But, you know, you can't have peace with God if you don't forgive others. And so that's what I emphasize with these girls. You have to forgive. God won't forgive us if we don't forgive others who hurt us. And I feel like she's made a monumental progress in this area. And I believe that she's ready, and that she's going to be an asset to society, and she's going to be able to help others. And I guess that's why I'm in the prison ministry for 27 years. I was a chaplain in Texas, is because my heart is for women. And so many of the women here have been molested and treated horribly. And it is horrible to have to deal with that, especially as a child. And so my desire is to invest in the lives of these women and help them to see there's hope and faith in God, and that He can fix everybody who will come to Him with a humble heart and willingness to make their wrongs right and ask for forgiveness and go forward for Jesus Christ.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So Ms. Harris, are you still working on forgiving those who harmed you as a child? You still working on that?
I'm a Christian now. I read my word and I believe in God. I have forgiven everybody that have harmed me.
All right. Well, that's
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
All right, let's hear from Ms. Bass. Can we hear from you, please?
I feel that we have the perfect avenue for Ms. Harris to be able to come into in a stress-free environment that we can take and love her and connect her back into a community that she has no clue what it's like out here. And we can walk side by side with her and get her into a support group, counseling. We can continue her education and help her get her GED. We can place her in a good environment to work in. We do that, all the helping on budget and saving and preparing for her future as far as teaching her, getting her in driving classes, teaching her how to drive, getting a driver's license, all the steps it takes towards getting her into her own environment in her own home one day. And we're not stressed on, oh, it's got to be a year and you're out of here. It's however long it takes her. We're willing to house her and keep her.
Great. Thank you so much for that information. We appreciate it. Can we hear from Ms. Lakeisha Klein, please?
I feel like Clara is ready to come home. It's time. She's my big sister. She's been gone most of my life. And as our older siblings, I feel like she'll be a great role model in this family because it has been very hard since we lost our parents. I've talked to her over the years on the phone, and from what I see, she really has changed for the better. Because I'm a real hard sister, and I know I would tell her what's right from wrong. If I feel like it's wrong, I'm gonna tell her, and I feel like she's changed. And I think she'll be an asset to this outside world, to this society. We love her and we miss her. And we've been praying for her to come home. It's time for her to come home. I feel like she learned her lesson. I feel like she's learned her lesson. She's been there too long. It's time for her to come home. I'm ready. We ready to see her. We couldn't travel to St. Gabriel, but I know we'll be able to see her in Monroe. I'm proud of her with all her education. And she'll be a great access to this society. She'll be a great access to this society. Please, y'all, let her come home.
All right. Well, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. And I have Mr. Nash. Are you with us? Is he with us? Okay. All right. Ms. Harris, is there a statement you'd like to make before we vote?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I take full responsibilities for my actions. I'm very remorseful, and I apologize. The ripple effect that I caused on the victim, my family, and the community.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Here to vote, Mr. Rochelle?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Ms. Harris,
Yes, sir.
Warden Thomas can tell you that disciplinary write-ups causes me to deny more people that I'm a disciplinary. I like people who's gonna follow the rules, because following the rules is a way that the staff and the warden can control the offenders. And with over 200 write-ups in 25 years, that's totally unacceptable.
Yes, sir.
And the last one being only 2 years ago, very serious.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But
I take full responsibility.
Ms. Harris, I'm delivering my decision, okay? I know you do. And I know you're remorseful, And I know you're trying to make a change in your life. I realize that. I see it in your face. I see it in your demeanor. What I'm trying to do right now is to give you a way to get released. But I have to recognize that your disciplinary conduct is unacceptable. So based on what I see this morning and what I've gotten from this interview, I'm going to vote to grant your release conditionally. Condition on that you continue in the GED program. You complete the dyslexic training and that you have no write-ups in the next 9 months.
Yes, sir.
Now, if Warden Thomas or Ms. McGovern see that you're not capable of earning that GED after 8.5 months, I'm going to waive that condition based on a letter of certification from Warden Thomas. You understanding me so far?
Yes, sir.
But I will not waive one single solid disciplinary write-up. If you get a disciplinary write-up, this will be revoked.
Yes, sir.
Warden Thomas, can you take care of that for me?
Yes, sir. We're good.
Mrs. Wise. Ms. Harris, I just want you to know I've been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yes, ma'am.
It hurt me that you didn't have any hope, but you had Kairos and you had other programs that you called out that you took, but you didn't see those programs that giving you hope. And that was a concern for me. But when the chaplain spoke and she recognizes where you are, I want you to make that swing me a whole nother way. You still have work to do and you will have a lifetime of work to do. And I'm glad to know that you've forgiven the people who harmed you. And that's all you can do is forgive them and walk forward. So my vote is to grant conditionally as well as you work on the high set. And stay in the transitional program to the transition program only. And that you enroll in general counseling about 8 months after release. Stay with the counselor. You have a lot of stuff to unpack.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's my vote.
All right, Ms. Harris, I agree with my colleagues. So my vote today is to grant conditionally, and I won't repeat everything. I will send you a copy of it and the folks there can help explain it to you. So you got some work to do, work hard. Good luck to you.
Thank
Ma'am,
you.
thank you.